Chapter 711, How About Becoming My Brother-in-Law? Tang Xiu had seen numerous twin sisters before, but this was his first time seeing a nearly identical one. He felt the situation was kind of interesting, so he gave a gesture and said, "Ask. Do you like my sister, Mr. Tang? Would you like to become my brother-in-law?" asked Zhang Xinyue. It was a very direct and straightforward question. Cough, cough. No matter how smart Tang Xiu was, never did he ever expect that Zhang Xinyue would ask such a question all of a sudden. But after seeing how intense her stare was, he said with a smile after coughing twice, "I think you misunderstood something here. I'm just an ordinary friend to your sister. Besides, I already have a girlfriend, so I can't become your brother-in-law. Is your girlfriend more beautiful than my sister?" Zhang Xinyue knitted her brows. More outstanding than her? The excellence of a woman is never about how great she looks, and there's no way to compare one to another, especially when they have to face emotional problems, said Tang Xiu. I naturally feel that the woman I like is a very outstanding woman, but there's no way I can marry a woman I don't like even though she is very outstanding. What you said is a fallacy, humph. Zhang Xinyue hummed coldly. How can an excellent woman possibly be disliked by men? Tang Xiu thought for a while and slowly said, I'm afraid that the world will plunge into chaos if a man goes after every outstanding woman he sees and takes a liking to. Let's take an analogy here. Your older sister is very outstanding, either her looks, stature, temperament, or her status as a famous superstar. The most notable thing about her is her good disposition, and she can have status and position if she wishes to. In the eyes of countless men, she is indeed a very outstanding woman. And you as her sister. You have a similarly striking outer beauty. More so that you can set up such a large beauty parlor in Shanghai, which should earn you quite a fortune. In the eyes of countless women, you have a high stature as well. The capital you have makes you a very outstanding woman in men's eyes, too. Just because of your excellence. Do you think it's preposterous and ridiculous if I were to fall in love with both of you sisters at the same time? Zhang Xinyue was taken aback by Tang Xiu's reasoning. She thought that the issue was simple and pure. On the days she spent with her sister, she could feel that her sister really liked Tang Xiu, as she mentioned him all day long. She could tell that the feelings her sister had for him were very deep. Hence, she used this opportunity today, wanting to know how Tang Xiu felt about her sister. Yet, she did not expect that it would lead to such an unexpected result. Was this like an unrequited love, where the falling flowers were yearning for love but the heartless brook rippled on? She suddenly felt downhearted for her sister. At the same time, she could not hate Tang Xiu for this either, and she even admired him instead. After all, with all the capital her sister had, hundreds of men in Shanghai would line up, wanting to marry her. But this man in front of her had enough sensibility and reason, as well as being honest. Zhang Xinyue slowly got up. Under Tang Xiu's gaze, she bowed and said, Since you can't be with her, may I trouble you to keep some distance from her later, Mr. Tang? If possible, I hope that this will be the last time you meet her. I don't get what you mean, said Tang Xiu, frowning. Since my sister is not here, let us have a frank and straightforward conversation, said Zhang Xinyue with a serious expression. My sister has a good impression of you, and I can tell that her feelings toward you are quite deep as well. You already have a girlfriend, thus it's impossible for you to marry my sister in the future. Then the best option is to let time kill her feelings. You're an astute and smart man, Mr. Tang. I'm sure you can understand this. And I don't want my sister to be hurt. Tang Xiu fell silent for a while before he finally nodded and slowly said, I understand. But I can't guarantee that I will never meet her again. The problem with it is that this is not something I can do alone. You can rest assured, however. I will try to keep a distance from her from today forth. The favorable impression Zhang Xinyue had toward Tang Xiu increased a lot after hearing his reply. Because she found that he was not someone fickle in love. Neither did he have an intense self-satisfied feeling upon learning that such an outstanding woman had fallen in love with him. He showed the demeanor of a modest and cautious gentleman. It's no wonder that sis really likes him. This man is really excellent. Zhang Xinyue muttered to herself inwardly. She suddenly recalled the summary of what Tang Xiu said excellence and in feelings it was, and suddenly could not help but laugh at herself. It seemed that he was correct. If she still only had eyes for excellence, she did recognize that this man was excellent. Did it mean that she liked him too? Please wait here for a while, Mr. Tang. I'm going to see whether my sister is already done. After Zhang Xinyue departed, the smile on Tang Xiu's handsome face gradually disappeared, replaced with a forced, wry smile. It never crossed his mind that he would be struck with such a good luck after returning to Earth, to make even a superstar like Zhang Xinyue fall in love with him. He just could not think through it all. What was good about him in the first place? Other than his not bad looks, and maybe being a little more handsome than a few others, he did have quite a bit more money than the rest, that was for sure. But then again, there was also a lot more rich people out there. As for his strength, he was a cultivator and also had a very formidable power. But then again, he was not the only cultivator in the world. In terms of personality, he was one that never liked to be ostentatious, even deliberately playing low profile all the time. It was highly unlikely that he would attract women, no? As for medical skills, Tang Xiu never gave it a thought, nor was he aware of himself. But he was scared out of his skin after recalling it. He had never had a high EQ to begin with, but with his high intelligence and after a careful analysis, he then realized that he turned out to have many strong points, with each considered as the best in its respective field. Having a rebirth and crossing over is indeed a great killing tool in life. While sitting on the sofa with leg tilted, Tang Xiu released a stream of true essence and wrapped the cigarette ash to throw it outside the window. The ashtray was not provided in a world full of women, and smoking here was similarly inconvenient. Not long after, Zhang Xinyue, who had just left, returned to the office along with Zhang Xinyue. When Tang Xiu saw the duo's identical looks, he could not help but secretly admire the mystical creator. With the similarities of these sisters, it was no wonder that someone would probably recognize them mistakenly no matter how familiar they were with them. Tang Xiu. Zhang Xinyue looked unusually happy after seeing Tang Xiu. She walked over with a brisk pace, put her bag on the sofa nearby and then sat next to Tang Xiu, saying, "You called me yesterday and said that there's something you need to discuss with me, what is it? Also, how did you know that I was in Shanghai? I rarely go out since coming here, and neither have I attended any commercial events. I didn't know that you were in Shanghai, in fact." Tang Xiu smiled. "It was Qin Xiaoyang who told me. Also, the reason I came to find you is kind of working as a lobbyist for him." Qin Xiaoyang? The owner of Canda Club in Beijing and the sole heir of the Qin family? Asked Zhang Xinyue, surprised. Yeah, him. Tang Xiu nodded. So, what kind of lobbying are you doing? Asked Zhang Xinyue with a confused expression. Well, Qin Xiaoyang and I, along with Chu Yi, have set up a type of literature and cultural entertainment company. I invested 1 billion yuan in it and own 30% of the company's shares, while Chu Yi invested 500 million that accounts for 15% shares, whereas 10% of the shares will be reserved for the company executives in the future. Qin Xiaoyang himself owns 45% of the remaining shares, on the account of the 1.5 billion yuan he invested in the company, explained Tang Xiu with a smile. Of course, Chu Yi and I will not intervene in the affairs of the company management. Qin Xiaoyang will take care of it. Anyways, he learned that your contract with your agency has expired, so he asked me to invite you to join our company. Other than offering you 1% of the company's shares, there's also a much better treatment for you compared to your previous contract. I agree, said Zhang Xinyue without hesitation after hearing it. No, you can't. Zhang Xinyue immediately interrupted. Tang Xiu glanced at her and understood what she had in mind. Instead, it was Zhang Xinya who frowned and turned her head toward her, asking with a confused expression, "Why do you not agree, sis? I never planned to set up my own studio, and I got nothing to do now. You also know that I'm short on money recently, and I'll soon be asking for your support. What can I do if I don't have a job? Besides, Tang Xiu has shares in this company, and I'm sure that he won't let me suffer a loss." Zhang Xinyue secretly criticized inwardly. It is because Tang Xiu has shares in this company that I don't want you to agree. The more you can avoid him in the future, the more chance you have to meet others, and the better it will be. However, she could not say what she thought and could only brace forward. "Sis, I think you have been too tired in the past few years, so it's better for you to take a break for now. Besides, don't you still have me? I can still support both of us even if you want to take a break for 8 or 10 years. Her sister's words made Zhang Xinya feel warm inside. However, even though she was touched, she did not want to live off her younger sister, so she firmly said, "Xinyue, you don't have to persuade me. I've decided to join this entertainment company." Zhang Xinyue knew her sister's personality. She may look tender and gentle on the outside, but once she decided on something, only a few people could change her decision. However, after she gave it a thought, she changed her mind since Tang Xiu would not be involved in the affairs of this entertainment company. In such a situation where her sister was kept busy, the chances of them meeting would be very few. Therefore, she could only force a smile and say, "I'll respect your decision since you already made up your mind, sis. But don't work too much, okay? Besides, money isn't everything." "Don't worry, I know," said Zhang Xinya with a smile. After obtaining Zhang Xinya's reply, Tang Xiu did not want to stay there for long, so he got up to leave and said with a smile, "Anyways, I still have other things to tend to, so I'll take my leave. Xinya, I'll text you Qin Xiaoyang's cell number, you can contact him later." "Leaving so soon? Let's have some time together," said Zhang Xinya hastily. Tang Xiu casually glanced at Zhang Xinyue and immediately replied with a smile, "I have many pressing things, so I must go. But I'll contact you again after I'm done dealing with some matters." Although Zhang Xinya was a bit unwilling and felt reluctant to part with Tang Xiu, she was also afraid that she would delay and disturb him in dealing with his business, so she could only nod in disappointment. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, Tang Xiu's mobile phone rang. When he took it out and saw that it was a call from Mo, he immediately put it through and asked, "What's the matter, Boss, there's an accident." In an instant, the smile on Tang Xiu's face disappeared, replaced with a grim and solemn expression. Chapter 712, Major Incidents. Tang Xiu hurriedly left Zhang Xinyue's beauty parlor and came outside, and immediately asked after boarding the car, "Tell me the specifics about the situation." Did not start the car but handed over a pile of documents, saying, "The methods used by the murderers in the 4 homicide cases happened in Shanghai last night were extremely cruel. A team of 4 from the state's special department who were involved in the incident were also killed. Based on the statistic, the total number of casualties and victims is 16, and the 4 murder scenes are in the north, south, west, and east of Shanghai." "Was there any similar cases before?" asked Tang Xiu with a deep frown.
"Yeah,
there have been 3 murder cases in the past 2 days." Mo nodded. "One of them was a case with the beasts we already know, the Stygian Club's assassination agents, while the other 2 were similar to last night's case. I suspect that the real culprit of these 6 murder cases should be of the same group of people, but I still can't figure out their motives yet." Tang Xiu pondered for a moment and then took out his mobile phone to call Li Xiaojie. What surprised him was that this man, who was a member of the National Intelligence Department, did not even know what happened. However, he told Tang Xiu another matter. Some members of the Special Combat Squad had secretly rushed to Shanghai. What is their purpose? Tang Xiu touched his chin as a pondering light flashed in his eyes. Mo did not disturb Tang Xiu, and only asked after Tang Xiu took out a cigarette and lit it. So, where are we going now, boss? To the Paradise Manor, said Tang Xiu. I don't know whether these criminal cases are related to Shangena or not, but the situation in Shanghai is very obvious. Some undercurrent is currently happening here. There's no way that all these incidents are accidental. Thus, you will assign some people to stay hidden in Paradise Manor to ensure Shangena's safety. Affirmative, replied Mo. Tang Xiu returned to the Paradise Manor and went to see Qin Shaoyang first to tell him about Zhang Xinyao's decision. Afterward, he went to the foreign-styled building and saw that a heavy container truck was moving down the road. It had delivered the research equipment needed by MOE. Shangena, you are not to leave this building without my permission. There's something happening out there now. Shanghai is currently very dangerous, and I don't want for any unexpected accidents to happen, said Tang Xiu straight to Shangena just after he arrived. What danger? Shangena's face slightly changed. She thought it was the assassination agents sent by the Stygian Club to hunt her down again. It had to be noted that the Dark Soul scent was still on her, and if other assassination agents had come to Shanghai, they would definitely be able to track the smell and find her here. There have been major incidents and murders in Shanghai recently, and some people from China's special department were involved in the cases. Even the military was said to have moved as well. I still can't figure out the motive, so I'll stay here for the time being. Also, I've already assigned my men to stay around the vicinity to protect your safety. Shangena nodded with a solemn expression. What Tang Xiu said to her was like a shot of tranquilizer that suppressed her fear. After all, she knew that Tang Xiu and his men were incomparably formidable. If they could not protect her, then there would be no safe place anymore under the sky. And yet, she was very curious about something. Who could be so bold as to commit such wanton killing in China? She knew some things about this country and naturally knew that they would definitely meet a bad end against the entire country. Suddenly, her body trembled as she recalled something and hurriedly said, I know something that might be useful to you, Mr. Tang. What is it? Asked Tang Xiu. When I fled all the way from Europe, I had no fixed route at all. Then I accidentally stumbled across a business deal after half a month in the run. I do not know the specific details about that deal, but I know that it was something related to a technological product that can be applied to weapons. When they talked about it, they said that they would come to Shanghai in the near future to carry on the transaction. Who is the other party? Asked Tang Xiu immediately. I don't know. Shangena shook her head. I did not pay attention at that time. I only remember that there was a Caucasian man named Austin Cole. That's right. He said that he has quite a few strings in a certain state-owned enterprise company and that he has full authority to carry on the transaction, and is willing to bear the consequences if things go wrong. Tang Xiu turned his head toward Mo and said, investigate this state-owned enterprise as well as the details of this Austin Cole guy. Mo did not move, and after being silent for a while, he slowly said, I think I know this SEO company, boss. I also know this Austin Cole. This state-owned enterprise engages in the pharmaceutical industry and deals with drugs and medical equipment, but behind it is a very mysterious arms dealer company in Europe. Austin Cole is the third person in the rank of this SEO and controls half of its armed forces. I once interacted with him in the past. He's a ruthless fellow. So, he's an arms smuggler, but why did he come to China? Tang Xiu frowned. Could it be that he wants to do business here? I don't know about that. Mo shook head. The members of this SEO company stay mostly in the dark, especially those three guys at the top. They are the epitome of a fox's slyness, the vigilance and cautiousness of a rat, as well as the ferociousness of a wolf. Very few people dare to provoke these guys in Europe. Send our men to carry on an investigation on this Austin Cole, whether he really came to Shanghai, said Tang Xiu. I am not someone from the government, but these people came to Shanghai and wantonly killed people here. so I'll clean them up since I'm here. This matter is perhaps not as simple as it looks, boss, said Immortal. If this is really the work of that SEO company, they must have quite a huge target. Else they would not easily come to China, and neither would they choose such a major city like Shanghai as their destination. Just do the investigation, said Tang Xiu. We'll further discuss after we get some results. Understood, replied Mo, striding out of the room. Tang Xiu then glanced at Shanjena and said with a smile, I will give you a handsome gift if the people committing murder in Shanghai are really from this SEO company like you said. That piqued Shanjena interest, as she asked curiously, what handsome gift? If I were to tell you now and the results of the investigation turned out to be different than what you said, you'll be disappointed, said Tang Xiu with a smile. So I'll make you look forward to it while waiting for the investigation results. Anyways, work well with Professor Mo and my men will take care of the security issues. Got it. Shanjena shrugged her shoulders and nodded. Tang Xiu did not stay there for long. After going to Ouyang Lulu's residence, he directly entered the room, his gaze sweeping over the gift boxes he received last night. He then walked over and opened the first gift box. He immediately started upon seeing a pair of white jade pendants inside, and what surprised him was that the white jades contained spiritual qi within. This is a magic tool? After a moment's observation, the surprised expression on Tang Xiu's face turned more intense. He immediately opened the second gift box. Inside was a manual of a fist-style illustration, and the manual should be around for many years judging from its yellowed pages. After opening the third gift box, Tang Xiu's breath slightly stagnated as a well-preserved Millennium Ginseng was presented before him. This gift, Tang Xiu recalled Ji Mu's attitude and gestures last night. Though he was the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation as well as a member of Beijing's Tang family, it was not enough to make Ji Mu spend so much money. One must note that this pair of white jade pendants could definitely be sold at a sky-high price to people who could appraise fine objects. On the other hand, this 2,000 years old wild ginseng was at least worth 9 digits. Even the fist-style illustration manual could be sold at a huge profit to people in the martial arts circle. What is his purpose? The thought filled Tang Xiu's mind as he slowly opened the fourth gift box, which was also the biggest one. When the item inside was presented before him, he still got startled despite having seen a lot of treasures before. It was a zither made of white jade. Its body was cast from white jade while the strings were from an aquatic dragon's tendons. The fire bead was embedded on the right side while the water bead was inlaid in the left. The body of the zither was pattern engraved and a surge of spiritual power circulated through the whole body, giving off a dazzling sense of aesthetic on its own. This is a priceless beauty. Tang Xiu furrowed his brows, and the baffled expression on his face got even more intense. After a long time, he dialed Ji Mu's cell number and straightly spoke after he accepted his call. Ji Mu, I've seen your gifts. If you have time now, come to Paradise Manor, there are some things we need to discuss clearly. Did you like the gifts I sent you, Brother Tang? Ji Mu did not answer Tang Xiu but raised a question instead. All of them are great items, no one would dislike them, said Tang Xiu. Then my purpose has been accomplished, Brother Tang. Ji Mu smiled. You are someone who can appreciate good items, and maybe you can use them well. Those articles will be wasted if I keep them, so they are yours since I already gifted them to you. Just come here and have a chat with me, said Tang Xiu. You can request one thing from me as long as it's not too demanding. Ji Mu was silent. His purpose was very simple. He just desired to follow Tang Xiu and directly learn those peerless abilities, but he did not know whether he should raise the issue now. It would be equal to a transaction if he were to do that, but all of his efforts to reach his goal would be completely for naught if the deal did not work out. Is there a problem? Asked Tang Xiu. Just wait for me, said Ji Mu. I need 2 hours to get there. Tang Xiu hung up the phone and looked at the items in front of him, and then picked up the 1-foot-wide white jade zither. Back when he played in the opening ceremony at Shanghai University, he could definitely have played a more wonderful music if he had this white jade zither then. Chapter 713, The Old Mouse of Shanghai. At the Ji family's ancestral residence, Chengxi City. Ji Mu was standing in front of his family ancestral shrine, watching as his grandmother the pinched rosary beads and knocked the back of the makujio. His grandmother was a devout Buddhist, and ever since his grandfather passed away more than 20 years ago, she had been living in seclusion in the ancestral shrine. She rarely walked out of the house and was ignorant of all family affairs. Ji Mu himself was rather rebellious since childhood, though he was not a bullish character in nature. He spent his youth being wild and arrogant, but the current him was relatively mature and stable. His grandmother was his closest person since he was a child, and he subconsciously came to this place after receiving the call from Tang Xiu. He too realized the principle of truth, that one could only seek riches and honor within risks and dangers. The scene he saw 2 days ago was equal to him breaking Tang Xiu's secret. Though he gifted many treasures and tried his best to befriend Tang Xiu in his endeavor to become an immortal, who was able to mount the clouds and ride the mists, that was also something that was as changeable as clouds and rains. Hence, the only way was to bet his life and fight for it. "Grandma, I want to speak with you." In the past, Ji Mu would never interrupt his grandma's meditation. But he had an appointment with Tang Xiu shortly, so this time was an exception. Hu Shi's closed eyes opened and, as a ray of wisdom flashed through, she stopped knocking the makujio and gently got up from the cushion. She then turned to look at her grandson outside and said, "What happened?" Ji Mu blanked out for a second, and then immediately said with a bitter expression, "Grandma, I've decided to go forward to do something important, so I want to have some words with you before leaving. I can only calm down if I hear your voice." "Is it very dangerous?" asked Hu Shi slowly after being silent for a while. Ji Mu nodded, but then shook his head and said, "The ancients said that one can't catch a tiger cub if one doesn't enter the tiger's den, while there are honor and riches amidst dangers. Hence, I'm going to take the risk for these riches and honor." "The Ji family has provided you with riches and honor, is it unable to fill your appetite?" asked Hu Shi, frowning. "It's a different kind altogether, Grandma." Ji Mu shook his head. "Money can never buy the type of riches and honor I want, not even a mountain of gold and silver." Hu Shi shot him a deep look and said, "Since a mountain of gold and silver are unable to buy it, there's no harm in you trying then. But think about it clearly, grandson. You're still a young man. Very young." Ji Mu fell silent. He knew that he was still young, but he also thought that it was this very youth that ignited his ambition. It is said that the more we have, the more we are afraid of losing. He had yet to take over the Ji family's business, as his father and uncles were still in their prime. He only had a status as a member of the Ji family as well as the wealthy life it provided. "Have you talked to your parents or your uncles about this?" asked Hu Shi. "I can't tell them about this." Ji Mu shook his head. "Then, what do you need from Grandma?" Hu Shi sighed. "There's no need, Grandma," said Ji Mu with a smile. "I already did all I could. It's completely up to fate now. If he wishes for me to die, I'm afraid no one can change my fate even if the Ji family employs everything it has to change it. But don't worry, though. I've gifted him some treasures in advance, so the chance for me to come back alive is very big." "He? Treasures?" Hu Shi's wrinkled face turned slightly dull as she looked at her grandson's bright smile. She suddenly made up her mind and turned around to the desk where the ancestral memorial tablets were enshrined. From the leftmost drawer of the desk, she took out a rectangular wooden box, gently wiped the dust off it, and then returned to Ji Mu's front, saying, "Our Ji family were of aristocracy descent and members of the imperial court in the eras of the Ming and Qing dynasties. Though we have lost most of the family treasures during those difficult years, we still kept some good things until now. Take this wooden box and present it to him as a gift. If he has discerning eyes, your chance to come back alive will increase without saying anything about the thing inside this box. Ji Mu's hands were a bit trembling. Though he did not know what treasure inside this wooden box was, for it to be placed in the ancestral hall explained that it was definitely something great. Yet, looking at his grandmother who was willing to give it away for his sake and the love she showed him, he was so moved that he wanted to cry. Off you go, grandson. Huisher gently waved and sat back on the cushion. Shanghai, Century Square. Yu Shuqing sat with tilted legs on a bench at the northern end of the square while holding a hot milk tea he had just bought, chewing his last sausage. As the captain of the most mysterious Phantom Special Combat Squad in China, he had been through life and death situations countless times. At the moment, however, he looked like a street guy who did some dirty business. Do you think that money-loving guy will come here, Captain? On the flower bed next to Yu Shuqing, Mo Xiaonan was yawning and looking bored. Only the good-looking Belle who occasionally passed by made him look a bit spirited. He will. His mind is full of greed over money, so he naturally won't miss the opportunity to make a fortune, said Yu Shuqing casually. Don't look at that guy like he is just a crooked fella since he does have a lot of abilities. Else, how can he get information that those fellas in the intelligence agency can't find again and again? He does have the ability, but his heart is way too black. His price got higher after last time, demanding 1 million this time. You know, I still feel pain though the money is not mine, groaned Mo Xiaonan. A smile outlined in Yu Shuqing's mouth as he sipped his milk tea and asked with a smile, between 1 million and lives. Which one do you think is the most important?
Ugh.
Mo Xiaonan touched his nose, looking embarrassed and no longer spoke. Without much disturbance, a young man donned in a gaudy attire, a stick in his mouth, and a chin like an ape's appeared before Yu Shuqing and Mo Xiaonan like a thief. He sat down on the bench where Yu Shuqing was sitting and then took out a pack of crumpled cigarettes. He took out one, lit it, and then took a deep puff with a happy look on his face. Then, he laughed and said, okay, money money money. Gimme my money fast. My time is very precious, and every second wasted is equivalent to a dime slipping from my fingers. I know the rules, mouse. A penny is equal to 1 item, but you should not rush to get the money without giving the goods, no, said Yu Shuqing indifferently. Mouse took out a dirty black book from his pocket and threw it to Yu Shuqing, saying, I know you understand the rules, buddy. We have done business more than once or twice. You also note that this mouse has a guaranteed credibility, so I'm not afraid that you'll take back your words. Anyways, the information you need is in the book, along with my account number. Yu Shuqing nodded and gulped down the remaining milk tea. Then he got up and said, same old rules. 50% deposit transferred to your account within half an hour, while the remaining will be transferred after the information has been confirmed with no errors. Speaking about it, are you interested in serving the country? Like being a field personnel of the intelligence department? Mouse blinked and asked, is the pay good? Rolling his eyes at him, Yu Shuqing did not want to bother with this money grubber again and went straight away with Mo Xiaonan, whose expression was rather unsightly. Mouse, however, did not rush to leave. He touched his chin while watching Yu Shuqing's and Mo Xiaonan's backs. A thought churned inside his mind after hearing the over-formal language used by Yu Shuqing a while ago. He could tell Yu Shuqing's identity, someone working for the country. He should be a soldier, and also not your ordinary serviceman. Mouse bit the cigarette and languidly leaned on the bench, taking out a mobile phone and waiting for the text notification for the transferred money. Are you Mouse? 2 figures appeared in front of him. The middle-aged man on the left had a fiery gaze with a chilling expression and talked with an imposing manner. Mouse frowned and his eyeballs rotated fast. One of his hands was already stuffed in his pocket and gripped a knife. He slowly raised his head, looked at the 2 middle-aged men and asked, May I know who you are, 2 amigos? Can I ask what you need from this big brother, eh? Not bad. You are called Mouse, but you're as sly as a fox, eh? Like a top dog information broker should be, you're really an intelligence player in nature. Anyways, let me introduce myself. My name is Jing, and I want to make a deal with you. Jing? Mouse squinted his eyes yet maintained extreme vigilance inside. He knew that the other party had already investigated him, so the disguise in his words was useless. He had interacted and had done deals with countless people from all walks of life, but only some people that could make him dread, just like those two servicemen who left a while ago. However, this Jing and his companion gave him a huge sense of threat. Nobody knew that all the fine hairs in the pores all over his body had turned erect, and he felt a chill on his neck. What deal? Asked Mouse calmly. I need specific information about the many murders in Shanghai recently, and we also give you a chance to be incorporated in our ranks. Also, you only have 2 chances to refuse. There was a strange expression on Mouse's face. Never did he think that the other party would offer him such a ridiculous transaction. They want me to be incorporated into their ranks? I'm a powerful character who is famous as the eyes of the underground in Shanghai, a top dog who has ventured to every sewer beneath Shanghai, and yet, to my surprise, they treat me just like they want to gain something on my loss. After clearing his throat, Mouse let out a dry smile and said, I still need to know who you are before refusing. You will need to use up your 2 chances, that I know, said Jing. We are from the Everlasting Feast Hall. Maybe you don't know much about us, but we are more powerful than you think. The Everlasting Feast Hall? The topmost high-end restaurant in Shanghai? Mouse let out a curse of contempt inwardly. Even if there is a very strong force behind the Everlasting Feast Hall, can it be compared with the entire country? Just now, I even refused the invitation from the country. I refuse, said Mouse with a clear and firm tone. All right. You just wasted your first chance, said Jing with a grin. Now I will give you another chance. Choose between your life and death. Join us and live, refuse and die. You're just using coercion. Mouse raised his voice. What you are doing will only receive contempt from others. Also, this is just the same as forcing a donkey to dance, for there is no way in hell it will happen. Chances are you will get an unsatisfactory result yet feel good about it. Well, I heard you like money, said Jing with a smile. Chapter 714, Deterrence. Mouse liked money. It was something like a mutual consensus among all people who knew him, and each and every one who wanted to make a deal with him also had to be ready to be butchered. Of course. I love money very much. Mouse straightened up his chest, said with a straight face. Well, it seems like I just found a really good helper for our boss this time, said Jing with a smile. You're well known as the eyes of the underground, excel at collecting information, and is also adept at controlling intelligence network even though your network only covers a small area like Shanghai. Also, someone who likes money can be a good financial staff. If you are able to gain our boss' trust, he may entrust you a heavy responsibility and hand you the key to the treasury vault. Treasury vault? Mouse's eyes immediately turned ablaze. A boss who could own a treasury vault was definitely not an ordinary top dog. He really wanted to jump in now, but he could not. He was used to the feeling of controlling everything. Though it was tiresome having money transferred into his account regularly at intervals, sleeping with his banknotes was what he liked the most. He glanced to both sides while the hand that gripped the knife turned tighter as he prepared to refuse the offer the second time. He decided to use the opportunity to launch a sneak attack and then leave. Two amigos, you know that getting rid of an enmity is better than keeping it, while the present society is governed under the law. This is a public place, so you would not dare to attack me here, no? Besides, this old mouse is always prepared for both eventualities, for there will be men following me wherever I appear. Just look at that square, maybe some people will come rushing for me at any time. Mouse smirked. Don't think about scaring me, buddy. Jing sure grinned. Perhaps you were still a baby when Jing sure was crawling and rolling in piles of dead men. Don't rush to refuse. Maybe you think you can run away today, but have you ever thought that our resources are better than yours since we can investigate about you, and the force behind us is not something you can imagine? Why not, just give yourself a precious escort and protection this time? Mouse furrowed his brows, and a solemn expression painted his monkey-like face. It was an expression he rarely showed unless he was faced with a very important choice or a critical moment. Who is your boss? Our boss is a man called Tang Xiu, said Jing sure. Mouse gave it a thought and immediately exclaimed, is it Tang Xiu, the freshman of Shanghai University, the young miracle-working doctor at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, the secret big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, and the offspring of the Tang family from Beijing who was missing for many years? Are you talking about this Tang Xiu? Never thought you would know so much about our boss, buddy. Jing sure grinned. Anyways, since you already know my boss identity, then your second opportunity just turned critical. Pick one. Live or die, submit or refuse. Give me an answer now. Answer me first. Mouse waved his hand. There are two things I want to ask you. I'll naturally pick my choice if you answer me. You're a talented guy, so I'll give you the opportunity to ask, said Jing sure. A burst of light flashed in Mouse's eyes as he asked, your boss should have another identity other than the ones I just mentioned, shouldn't he? Is his other identity lighter or heavier than those I mentioned? He does have another identity. It's nothing you can pick on, but it's much heavier than you think, said Jing sure without hesitation. Mouse's eyes lit up and he asked again, why does your boss need intelligence on the murder that happened in Shanghai recently? You should also note that the people who can solve these problems should be from the government. I don't know much on this one. My boss is probably bored and has nothing to do, and wants to find something to kill the time. Or maybe because he feels compassionate toward the people and doesn't want to see more victims. Anyhow, you already got your two questions. Now it's time to give me your answer. I just had a change in mind all of a sudden and want to ask you another question. What kind of treatment can I get if I join you? Asked Mouse hastily. I dunno. It's boss who can answer that. Jing sure shook his head. Mouse rolled his eyes and released the knife in his pocket. He then stood up, stretched his body comfortably, and then said with a smile, well, I gotta say that I don't want to die, so I choose to join you. As a token of my joining, I'll hand over the information on these murder cases to you. No, to your boss. Let's go, then. Take me to him now. Jing sure nodded. He was not afraid that Mouse would take back his words, and neither was he afraid that this guy would run in midway. The prey he aimed at was never able to escape from his grasp even if they had wings on them. A few minutes later, as Jing sure's group left with Mouse, a young man with yellow bleached hair and wearing a very ordinary attire followed them. The guy was called Chen Yangfan, a member of the Phantom Special Combat Squad and also an excellent scout. His task was to track Mouse and figure out where his nest was. Strange. Where the hell did these two fellas come out? What purpose they have for taking Mouse away with them? Chen Yangfan thought in silence as he touched his chin while looking at the car in front. Half an hour later. Bang. At an intersection about 10 kilometers away from the Paradise Manor, the rear tire of the SUV with a Beijing plate number drove by Chen Yangfan exploded. Fortunately, he was a very skilled driver and constantly pushed the brake while both his hands controlled the steering wheel before the car gradually stopped at the roadside. Something strange. Chen Yangfan frowned as he got off the car and walked to the rear to look at the rear tires. He found that a flying knife had stabbed the tire, and the main cause for the tire to burst out was this flying knife. Whoosh! A hazy figure silently appeared behind him. Despite being a tracker and detection expert of the Phantom Special Combat Squad, he only noticed that someone already had a sharp dagger on his neck just as it happened. The sudden crisis caused all the fine hairs all over his body to stand erect and cold sweat to come out. His whole being was as though falling into an ice hole. How is this possible? He roared inwardly. He was very confident in his reflexes and sensing ability. Even Yu Shuqing, the captain of his Phantom Special Combat Squad, could only get 7 meters close to him without getting noticed. Closer than that, he would never be able to escape his perception. Don't look back if you don't want to die. A low and deep voice sounded behind him. Feeling a bit of fear, Chen Yangfan nodded silently. His voice was a bit hoarse as he asked, "Who are you?" A man's sneering voice replied, "You don't need to know who I am. Just answer my question. Who sent you to track Mouse, and who are you?" Mouse? Chang Yangfan recalled the 2 middle-aged men he had seen before. His mind raced and said, "It seems that you are of the same group of people who took Mouse. I don't have the convenience to disclose my identity, but I guarantee that I have no ill intention toward that guy." The man behind him seemed to ponder for a moment and then said slowly, "The more you know, the quicker you'll die. Though you have yet to answer my question, I can tell from your words and stance that you're a soldier, and you should be an elite affiliated with some special squad in the Chinese military. I warn you. Go back and tell your leader. Do not ever try to investigate Mouse again, or else." 2 seconds later, Chen Yangfan realized that the dagger placed on his neck was gone already, and there was no sound of the man behind him anymore. Just as he turned his head, he gasped as he found that no one was behind him. There was no trace of that mysterious man at all. His sharp eyes quickly glanced at the pedestrians passing by, and yet, he could not find any trace of that man with his professional skills. Just 2 or 3 seconds? Chen Yangfan felt dread and panic. He did not believe that someone's speed could be quick to this degree. It was just 2 or 3 seconds, and he was already 60 meters away at least. He could not even see his form. It was like the man just vanished in thin air. His gaze then landed on the throwing knife that pierced the tire. At this moment, he finally realized that it was not the tire that ran on the throwing knife, but someone definitely had shot the throwing knife toward the tire when he drove the car by. Upon realizing this, his heart jolted and he immediately went back to the driver's seat without hesitation, and then called his captain, Yu Shuqing. "What's the situation?" Yu Shuqing's cold voice transmitted from the phone. "I just encountered an expert, Captain," said Chen Yangfan in a bitter tone. "This guy is simply like a ghost. He used a throwing knife to blast off the rear tires of my car, and he did it when my speed was about 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Furthermore, this fellow appeared behind me and placed a knife on my neck without me being able to realize that he was approaching me. The most terrifying thing is that, 2 seconds after he stopped talking to me, I suddenly turned around but he had vanished. According to my judgment of the surrounding environment, he had already left for at least 60 meters away in just 2 or 3 seconds. That's impossible." Yu Shuqing shouted. "You're a soldier, Yangfan. Do not make such a joke with me. Even a martial arts grandmaster who is good at speed is impossible to sprint a distance of 60 meters in 2 seconds. Also, I know perfectly well about your skills. You won the state tracking competition twice in a row, while your combat sense has also reached a better level than mine in the last drill. It's just impossible for anyone to place a knife on your neck without you being able to react at all." "But it is the truth, Captain," said Chen Yangfan in a bitter tone. "I can't believe it myself, but it did really happen, and I was forced to believe it." Yu Shuqing fell silent for a few seconds and asked, "Then what about Old Mouse?" "I lost his track," said Chen Yangfan. "That man correctly guessed that I'm from a special force, but he did not know much further than that. Also, he issued a warning to be passed on to my superior, that is, we are to never investigate Mouse again, otherwise." Yu Shuqing squinted his eyes, and coldly asked, "What else did he say?" "Nothing. But his murderous aura is very strong," said Chen Yangfan. "I dare say that the number of people he has killed should be not less than 3 digits. Else he wouldn't have such a strong murderous aura." After pondering for a long while, Yu Shuqing finally said, "Since you've lost his track, then come back now. As long as this old mouse has yet to leave Shanghai, we'll find him sooner or later." Chapter 715, Get Rich or Die Trying. Men would die for riches as will birds for food, as it was said in an old adage. In Xie Jiqiang's eyes, wealth was ranked second in his top priorities, and his puny little life was ranked first. He could kill his parents, murder his wife and children, and do all kinds of evils for the sake of money. His motto in life was, "Whoever dares to block the source of my money must die." And this time, there were more than a dozen guns aimed at him. His life would be claimed in an instant as long as one of them pulled the trigger. In this moment of crisis, however, he was not afraid at all, as he sat on the cozy sofa and even gestured the 4 men behind him to put the guns down while letting out a smiling face toward a foreigner Caucasian man in front of him. "Don't blame me for overriding the initial price, Brother Cole. That genetic drug particle developed from our joint research is way too precious. Our previous agreement was indeed stating that you'll pay me $200 million once the research on this gene particle is done. It also stated that you will take away the gene particle along with the research data. But, you two know that the time spent on researching this genetic drug was much longer than expected. You gave up providing more additional funds needed in the past 2 years, so I got all the money on my own. Hence, it's $1 billion. A penny less and you will never take it away. Tell your men to shoot me on if you dare. My death is just a trivial thing, but you will never get that gene particle." Xie Jiqiang touched his chin and said with a smile. The tall and big Austin Cole was full of momentum and killing intention. When he wanted to kill someone, he would habitually pinch the button on the lower part of his clothes. At this moment, however, his fingers were fastened on it. He had met many greedy bastards, but none had dared to override the initial price agreement with him. However, he knew perfectly well that Xie Jiqiang and his SOE's big boss had a very deep friendship since this guy once saved him. If he were to kill this fella, though his big boss would not lash out his anger toward him directly, he could expect bad treatment from him in the future. Nonetheless, $1 billion was not a price he could bear. Xie, the SOE has had internal problems in the past 2 years. I'm sure you should have heard something about it. We invested all our funds into a huge project, so we can't provide the funds you needed on time. That was indeed our mistake. But, $1 billion is way too much. Let alone me, even boss himself won't agree to it. Our bottom line is $300 million. Or you can opt to become our enemy if you don't agree. $300 million, eh? Xie Jiqiang coldly smiled. Do you take me as a beggar? The total amount of capital I've invested in this project for the past 2 years cost me nearly $200 million, as I had to import tons of research material from various countries around the world. You should know something called nanobot, right? Just to get this stuff, I sent my people to some secret research labs belonging to the United States in Africa. Do you know how much I lost? I sent my true bloody combat experts there. Of the 40 of them, 27 died, while 4 men of the remaining 13 who escaped with the nanobots turned disabled. Furthermore, do you fucking know from where I obtained the information about those labs? I spent $25 million to buy it from the Darkwind organization. And yet, you increased the price by a mere $100 million? Hello? You have the nerve to bullshit me? Austin Cole fell silent. He could not tell if what Xie Jiqiang said was true or not, but breaching the contract was indeed their fault. It had been 8 years since they began the joint research and, while his SOE company had invested a total of $480 million for the first 6 years, there had been no substantial progress with the research. Therefore, just as they had given up on the plan, they unexpectedly caught the news that the experiment was successful. It was a gene particle. Something he must get at all costs. Once they obtained this gene particle, they could transform the body of ordinary people and formed a group of mutated gene experts. Though the SOE company had its own armed forces, the gap between them and the top armed forces in the world was like a chasm. $500 million, this is my bottom line. Finally, Austin Cole could only opt to compromise and directly added $200 million. It was also the highest price he was authorized to offer. As I said, I want $1 billion, not a penny less. Else I will not sell these gene particles to your SOE company. Xie Jiqiang shook his head. Besides, I'm pretty sure that once I sell the gene particles to other foreign large powers there will be countless forces willing to bid for a higher price. Are you forcing me? Roared Austin Cole furiously. You got that right. I'm indeed forcing you, said Xie Jiqiang. Take it and we have a deal. Leave it and we separate. This is China. You may have brought a lot of men with you, but wanting to kill me will not be easy. Moreover, it's uncertain whether you can leave the border of China as well. Those who have threatened me are all dead. Austin Cole did not say it out loud but chanted it inside thrice. He could only endure and employ patience, for the purpose of the SOE company was to groom a large number of powerful genetic warriors that would finally double the armed forces under the company by 10 times. As he took out a Cuban cigar, a middle-aged man lit it up for him. After taking a few puffs, he waved his hand, motioning his men to put their guns down. He then stared at Xie Jiqiang and said indifferently, I'm only authorized to fork out $500 million, so I need to call boss about this matter and ask his decision. I can only give you 3 days. Xie Jiqiang shrugged his shoulders and smirked. No answer in 3 days and the document in the mailbox will automatically send the files. At that time, there will be at least 20 top forces in the world who will send their people to China to discuss a business deal with me. Austin Cole subconsciously glanced at the bottommost button of his clothes and nodded with a cold expression, before he got up and left. After half a minute, a girl with heavy makeup and a voluptuous, charming figure came out of the next room. There was a sharp butterfly knife in her hand as she fiddled and played it up and down, creating images of blossoming flowers. Tell me something, do you really want money so much that you're not even afraid to make Austin Cole thoroughly furious? Asked the girl with a smile. You also know his notorious reputation for being cruel and merciless, no? I've provoked many cruel and merciless people before. He's not the only one of the many, neither is he among the few. I didn't see any hope at the beginning, and it drove me into a tight corner. Now that the gene particle has been developed, they came out like hungry wolves after it. The vexed feeling inside me will never dissipate if I don't make them bleed. What are you going to do after this SOE's big boss speaks his piece? Asked the girl with a smile. Dread flashed inside Xie Jiqiang's eyes. After a long silence, he slowly said, I know a bit about his character. He definitely won't make things get worse if this matter can be settled with money. Of course, I will have to sell it to him if he wants to thicken his face and buy it for $500 million. Nonetheless. Anyways, the gene particle is highly unlikely to be sold to one group only, so help me observe and inspect some contacts. It is necessary to find another 2 rich clients. The girl squinted her eyes and asked with a faint smile, Are you not afraid that everyone will know that you have the gene particles in your hands? You'll have numerous forces staring at you by then. Why should I? Xie Jiqiang sneered. I'll hand over the formula of the gene particles to the country after selling to some of them. Do you think the country will let me go at that time? The girl gave him a thumbs up, and praise was all over her heavy makeup face. Paradise Manor. Tang Xiu sat in the living room of the building where Ouyang Lulu usually lived, looking at the Jimu's gifts. As he fiddled with the strings, a melodious sound of zither gave off a feeling like of a grand feast. Ouyang Lulu, who sat cross-legged in front of the small tea table beside, was now fully concentrated on making tea. Jimu's here, boss. Mo came in front of Tang Xiu in a few steps and reported. Tang Xiu did not speak and kept playing the entire note, and then gently waved his hand. Soon, Jimu came in with a beautifully wrapped gift box, carefully placed it in front of Tang Xiu, and then stepped 2 steps back. What kind of treasure is it this time? Tang Xiu pointed to the gift box without expression. I don't know either. Jimu shook his head. When I said
Goodbye
to my grandmother 2 hours ago, she told me to take this and gift it to you. Tang Xiu pointed to the sofa at the opposite side. After Jimu had taken a seat, he then asked, Tell me. What is your real purpose? Jimu had already made up his mind and cleared his thoughts previously, but he was still a bit panicked at this moment. However, he suppressed his mood and bolstered up his courage, saying, I've always wanted to become an exceptional man, a superman, or a man with mystical powers. Just like what you did in Laoshan, mounting the clouds and riding the mist while controlling flying swords to kill your enemies. Tang Xiu suddenly looked up. His eyes were cold and brimmed with murderous intent, as he then said in a cold voice, Were you around back then? Jimu felt a chill down his spine as Tang Xiu stared at him. He suddenly felt like he was being eyed by a ferocious beast, as though this beast would swallow him at any time.
Yeah,
I was nearby. Bracing himself, Jimu nodded. Who else besides you witnessed it? Asked Tang Xiu indifferently. Also, did you tell anyone else about this? Jimu shook his head and said, There was no one else except me. I realized that I couldn't easily disclose this matter, so I did not tell anyone about it. Humph, Tang Xiu snorted coldly and said, With this reply, are you not afraid that I'll kill you, so as to avoid endless trouble popping up later? That is something I've prepared myself for, said Jimu in a bitter tone. If I were to come back alive today, it means that I made the correct gamble. But if I were to die here, it's also the price I have to pay for losing the gamble, even if there would indeed be lots of regrets left behind. Nonetheless, I'll still accept it. Tang Xiu shot him a deep gaze and received the fragrant tea handed over by Lulu. After gulping it down, he put the cup on the table and untied the beautifully wrapped gift box. His expression slightly blanked after he observed the rectangular wooden box clearly. It's made of growth amelioration wood?